Welcome to the GCSE Maths Advantage. I'm Dr. James Carter, and every episode I'm going to break down one topic, show you where the marks are, and give you a quick win you can use in your next exam. Whether you're targeting a grade 7 or pushing for a 9, let's get into it. This one fact will grab you. Examiners reported that triangle questions, the sine and cosine rule ones, cost more lost marks across the higher papers than almost any single subtopic last year. Why? Because students pick the wrong rule and then lose method marks while they try to rescue the answer. Sound familiar? Stick with me for the next 12 minutes and I'll give you a single decision routine that stops that panic every time. Okay, quick question before we start. How do I know which rule to try first when I see a triangle? Great question. Here's the decision rule. The single routine you should run in your head in 10 seconds. List what you have. If you have two sides and the included angle between them, use the cosine rule. If you have an angle and a side opposite that angle or two angles and a side, use the sine rule. If you have three sides, cosine rule. Write that down once and you've solved the guessing. Now, let's explain why each rule works. First, the sine rule. Picture any triangle labeled ABC with opposite sides A, B, C. Drop an altitude from one vertex. The height splits the triangle and creates right-angled relationships. Using sine on those right triangles gives you expressions like A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. In plain English, the side length is proportional to the sine of its opposite angle. That's why the sine rule is perfect when you know an angle and the side opposite it. The formula directly relates the two. But when does that fail? It fails in the sense it's not the tidy choice when you don't have an opposite pair. For example, if you have two sides and the included angle, that's where the cosine rule shines. Put the triangle on the page with angle C between sides A and B. Drop a perpendicular from one end and use Pythagoras in the smaller right triangle. After a little algebra, you get C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cos C. This is just Pythagoras with a correction term that involves cos C. When the angle C is 90 degrees, cos C is 0 and we return to Pythagoras. Important practical point, rearranging the cosine rule lets you find an angle when you know three sides. That formula is your go-to if the question gives three sides and asks for an angle, a common exam style. Before we move on, always label your triangle. Write which side is opposite which angle. Examiners love to see labeling because it shows you understand which quantities match. This is an easy M1 in many mark schemes. Let's take a typical 3-mark triangle question. The mark scheme often goes M1 for a correct equation using the appropriate rule, M1 for a correct substitution or algebraic step, A1 for the correct final answer. So, even if you don't finish the arithmetic, showing the correct setup can earn you a method mark. Here's the bad news. Vague statements like use trig won't get you anything. The examiner wants the formula written down, numbers substituted, and any rearrangement shown. Write the formula. Cosine rule. Then substitute the numbers. That's where the marks are. If you're solving an equation for a side, show the square root step. If you're solving for an angle, show the cosine inverse step. And make sure your calculator is in degrees. Small omissions like not showing you did cos inverse can lose that final accuracy mark if the answer is slightly off. Now, the quick win, a 10-second decision checklist you can use on any triangle question. 1. List what you know. How many sides? How many angles and which are opposite which? 2. If you see two sides with the angle between them, pick cosine. 3. If you see a side and its opposite angle or two angles and a side, pick sine. 4. If three sides cosine rule to find an angle. And a rapid estimation check to catch slips. Compare side ordering and angle ordering. The largest side must be opposite the largest angle. Another lightning check for numerical work. If you use the cosine rule, check c squared roughly equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. Even a coarse mental check, orders of magnitude, will catch many sign and decimal errors. Don't skip the check. Can you walk me through a quick worked example? I like seeing the whole thing. Triangle ABC. Side A equals 8. Side B equals 6. Angle C equals 60 degrees between them. Question. Find side C. Step 1. We have two sides and the included angle. So cosine rule for C. C squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. Substitute. C squared equals 8 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 8 times 6 times cos 60. Compute 64 plus 36 minus 96 times 0.5 equals 100 minus 48 equals 52. So C equals square root of 52. If you're writing this in an exam, show the square root step. C equals square root of 52 equals 7.21 to 3 significant figures. Step 2. Find angle B. We now know side B equals 6, side A equals 8, and side C approximately 7.21. We could use cosine rule to find angle B from cos B equals a squared plus c squared minus b squared over 2ac, or use the sine rule because we know side and opposite angle pair. Use cosine rearranged. Cos B equals a squared plus c squared minus b squared over 2ac. Substitute the numbers. Cos B equals 64 plus 52 minus 36 over 2 times 8 times 7.21 approximately 80 over 115.36 approximately 0.693. Then B equals cos inverse of 0.693 approximately 46 degrees to the nearest degree. Write the formula, show the substitution and the inverse cosine step and you'll claim the marks. The checklist worked. Cosine first, then a quick choice for angle B. After you compute an angle, ask, does this order make sense? The largest side must be opposite the largest angle. Triangle with sides 5 and 7 and angle between them 120 degrees. Find the third side. Run the 10-second checklist. Decide which rule and write the formula before calculating. Perfect. That's exactly the point. Routine beats panic. Use the 10-second checklist to pick sine or cosine. Show your formula and substitution for method marks. Then run a quick ordering check to catch arithmetic slips. If this helped, share it with a friend who's revising. Until next time, trust the process and nail that exam. Stay curious.